So part of the point of the Terrible Tyranid Collection is to find inspiration in different places. So when I was playing Valorant, I kind of realized there's a character called Gecko. He's kind of a knockoff Pokemon trainer with little guys that he uses as his abilities instead of having superpowers like the other ones. Now, there's some similarities between Tyranids and his abilities, and I think they're going to make for some fun looking glowy Tyranids. To kick off the painting, I'm going to need to do a base coat. This is going to be my chosen fluorescent color mixed with titanium white to make a super light but vibrant color to put over the top of everything. We're going to kick off by making the wingman ability, which is this little guy. So we're starting with a yellow mixed with white to make the glowy yellow, and then a bright orange for his signature ability, which is Thrash. So this guy's going to be a little glowy shark. Because the shark has kind of like a two-tone glow to it, we're gonna have to start with kind of the lightest color, and then we'll add the purpley red in later. But yeah, it's gonna be hard to do like a two-tone glowy effect. So let's see if it pays off. So here's my plan, right? For the glow, we got like the base coat of the light orange, followed by this kind of thin colored shade over the top, and then just like a small dry brush should result in a nice two-tone glow, and probably the easiest way to do it. I'm not quite sure how else I would do it, not without it being shed tons of work. These guys aren't supposed to be super high effort, they're just kind of fun and experimentation. So I need to move on to the wash that I'm going to put over the top, and I don't really have any clean receptacles to put the wash in, so I'm going to quickly just steal some of the bases from this box, and I'll hopefully remember to put it back later. The reason why I need multiple of these is because I want to try and do some wash blending on the wingman specifically. What I want to do is I want to make a light yellow, a dark yellow, and a purple, because he has purple arms. And what I'm going to do is paint all three of these in rapid succession and allow for them to kind of blend as I paint them onto the model. I'm going to need kind of the bright yellow for the highlight sections, but things like the legs and the tails would benefit if they were darker than like the main center of the body to give that effect of glowing. It's then going to really also help with the purple arms, because blending a dark purple into a light yellow would be an absolute nightmare. So this should help make it significantly easier. Now that it is dried, I'm not that happy with the purple, so I'm just going to brush over it again, which should really help make the purple look a lot more vibrant than it currently does. It kind of descended into grey, I'm not entirely sure how that happened. But I'm guessing kind of the yellow being quite an opposite tone, it kind of neutralized it out and just turned it into grey. So now that everything's dry, painting over with purple again should make it purple instead of grey. Now that wingman's done, let's move on to Thrash. Now, I wasn't going to do speed paint blending with the Thrash one. I was just going to use a super light purple to go over the top, but I've decided against it. I think it'll look a lot better if I focus kind of the orange on the center of the model. That way it kind of looks like it's glowing from the inside out. And the best way to do that is with an orange speed paint in the middle with the darker red on the outside. Now this ended up having a lot more of a kind of like a paintedly approach to it. Once again, the orange and the purpley kind of tones really fought with each other as I was painting it on. So I ended up kind of dabbing it on and constantly changing between the two. The dark red is a lot stronger of a pigment than the orange, which meant that I was having to put on probably like 3 or 4 times the amount of orange just to get it to show up without it being super taken over by all of the pink and red. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing for both of the Tyranids carapaces, and that's starting with kind of this dark blue. Now they are grey in the game. They're still going to be grey. We're going to turn it into grey in a second, but I'm starting with a dark blue because it should help provide a little bit of like a colder note to this grey. I don't want it to be a warm grey. It should help contrast these super bright, vibrant colours by making it just a little bit more different, a little bit more interesting. So I'm starting with this dark blue, and then we're going to put like a grey wash over the top of it to make it look a lot more grey than dark blue. And yeah, the grey is pretty simple. I'm just going to be using Gravelord Grey, a little bit watered down. This should, well, I used speed paint medium to water it down. Don't use water. Not a good idea. Yeah, so just a little bit watered down, kind of 1-to-1. This should kind of provide a lot of more texture, a lot more detail to the, okay, 2-to-1. Okay, didn't realize. And then here you can see quite noticeably that now that it's dried, it looks still slightly blue, but it's significantly more grey now, and it'll look even more grey when we put like a dry brush over it as well. But for now, I'm gonna paint the gun grey. This is just kind of to mimic kind of like the default skins of most of the guns in the game. They're all just kind of grey. For a dry brush, I'm just going to be dry brushing with kind of just an off-white. This should help keep it look a little bit more organic rather than using just a straight bold titanium white. But it's going to have pretty much the same effect. It's going to make it look a little bit dusty and a little bit more stylized, considering how kind of harsh of a contrast we have right now. But that's fine because it's from kind of quite a stylized game, so it should look absolutely fine. Now, for all of my kind of Terrible Tyranid collections, I'm just painting the bases with a matte black. This is just to highlight the actual model itself. That this is kind of just like a coloring exercise, just to kind of like help me practice different color sets and things like that. So I don't really care about the base. The base is just going to be painted with a matte black, and it kind of makes the actual models pop and look a lot better. Now, because Termagants have 2 claws, it got me kind of thinking about like the dual wield melee weapons that they have in the game. And whenever I think of dual wield melee weapons in this game, I think of the Prosperity, which was like a super early, like I think it was probably like one of the first dual wields they put in. And in my opinion, it looks god awful. The actual like design looks really good, but they must have like messed up the textures last moment. Like I don't understand. They look god awful, and it makes me smile every single time I see them. So I'm gonna put the Prosperity on the Hormagaunts. Now I'm gonna make the first the bright green small knife by mixing a bit of orc flesh with some fluorescent green, and then a little bit of speed paint medium just to make it kind of go better onto the model, to make the super vibrant kind of knife. And then for the other knife, the big one, I've got some liquid chrome ink that comes as like a good recommendation for super reflective material. However, it's not really supposed to be used for miniatures. It's supposed to be used in brush pens. It still works pretty well for miniatures though, but it will destroy pretty much everything you put it on though, so don't use brushes you like. And that's these guys done. I super enjoy these guys. I think they're really, really cool. Now, do they reflect the source material well? Not really. The yellow's a bit off on the Tyranid. The Hormagaun's alright, but it's a little bit too dark. It's not glowy enough. But I still think these make for some great mini models. I actually really like the color scheme. I think they look really, really cool. But yeah, I don't think they really look like the source material that much. I super like the contrast between the super bright flesh and the kind of chitinous material. Being this kind of like cold grey on top, it has like loads of contrast and it makes it look really, really nice. The kind of toxic yellowy green that this ended up being is a really nice color. It's just a shame that that's not really what I was going for. With the fluorescent paints that I have, well, with any of the paints that I really have, it was kind of a struggle to make kind of like that warm yellowy kind of color without kind of completely destroying it. That's why it's kind of this yellowy green. Like I said, I still really like the way it looks. It's just not really kind of like wingman material. Saying that though, it's a great toxic green, bright fluorescent creature. Yeah, he's super cool. The Thrash Homogon, however, is just kind of a little bit desaturated. He could have been a lot more vibrant. It would have looked really nice. It's a shame that it's kind of like neutralized out to look just kind of a bit boring. I think it kind of makes him look a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more realistic than what he was supposed to be. These guys are supposed to be like bright and stylized, and I don't think that's really happened with him. I do find the claws to look really nice though. I'm pretty happy with them, although nobody other than me is gonna know what it is. Anyway, if you like this video, please stick around. I've got a couple more that I'm already working on. But if you also have any recommendations for ideas for these Tyranids, it's been a lot of fun coming up with custom colors for these and kind of experimenting like how far you can go with just different inspirations for these guys, to see how different they can be, because they're really versatile in kind of custom colors. And I feel like you see the same ones over and over again, yet there's still so much potential for these guys. So yeah, stick around.